Well, I'm recording. Where you at? Yeah. Got it going on. Here comes your coffee.
Well, we got the cats in their spots. We've had too much of a break. We've been a little while.
A break from, about a week.
Yeah, from recording. That's quite a while.
Chingy ching cheers
Ching,
to you.
baby.
Wow. Did I make it good this time or what?
Yeah, it's seems a little milkier, but I don't know. It's been so long, I can hardly remember.
What? We're talking 2 days for coffee?
I suppose we had a leftover it was this weekend. Yeah, I suppose it hasn't been that long for that.
No leftovers. You call it chilled. You like
It's
it
really
to
good.
be chilled. It's not leftovers.
Well, it's leftover from the previous day, but it's kind of like, chili and like your spaghetti sauce that is really good to start with, but then the next day it can be even better.
Yeah. Well,
Really yummy.
the coffee we're drinking is from Colombia. However, it is now called native root coffee. So we have an exciting update. Irvin Liz found out, I don't know how exciting this will be to other people, but it's exciting to me. It's fun to watch. He found out he could not trademark the name Colombian coffee. So the name is changed to Native Root Coffee, and it's very apropos. It's honoring the natives. It's honoring the roots of where the coffee comes from, his tribe at the top of the Andes Mountains. His parents are on the front of at least one of the bags. I don't know everything they're doing because I'm not there, but their native root, they have a package that's called Elder Stone, and that is part of the branding, part of the product.
Yeah. Very sweet. It's so neat when you've actually met these people, but lovely, lovely people. Looks great. Yeah, it looks like there is kind of more of a pretty complete rebranding, and they're indicating, they have a quiz.
So what
That's a
website
good idea.
is this?
NativeRootCoffee.com.
That's the new website.
They have a quiz, so you can find out which coffee would be better for you.
Yeah.
And light, medium roast, dark roast. Yeah.
Well, they're making it a little bit more simple for people to kind of figure it out. Like you said, they showed dark roast, medium roast, light roast. They weren't doing that before because it was growing so fast. It was a little overwhelming. And so they had the names of the coffees, and then people would have to kind of look them up. And there was descriptions about them, but if you look on the webpage, you will see Tara and I as part of the founding group of Colombian Coffee Connection and now NativeRootCoffee.com. So everybody can go there. It's easy to order. It's easy to find, NativeRootCoffee.com.
Looks like at the bottom of the page too, you can get 15% off your first order.
Well, there you go.
Get a code.
I'm gonna try and do that. I'm gonna see if I can trick them.
See if you can score.
Well, it will technically be my first order of the coffee with the new brand. So
Yeah.
See, I'm still drinking Colombian Coffee Connection coffee. However, it is native root.
Yes.
So, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Very nice job.
So, how are you doing this morning?
Really good. I had a good night's sleep. Felt like sleeping in a bit, just not that, well, I was, there's different kinds of sleeping in. I think there's sleeping in when you're kind of tired still. There's sleeping in when you're kind of just like you just feel good and you just don't quite want to get up yet. Mine was more kind of the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're sleeping in?
Mm,
You were up before me.
Yeah. But still, I didn't get up right away when my alarm went off like yesterday. Actually, I think I did before.
I was actually awake when your alarm went off, and then I fell asleep.
So you're a person, you like never get up to alarms. I mean, it has to be something that we're going to something special that is pretty darn early, because you're naturally up.
Well, what I learned years and years and years ago is when I would set an alarm, let's say back in high school, everybody would say, set your alarm, or my mom would say, is your alarm set? And I would set it, but I'd always wake up before my alarm went off. So I stopped setting alarms because it'd be like, okay, it's probably 6 o'clock now. And I'd wake up and it'd be like 10 minutes to 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I learned to say what time I wanted to wake up, and then I would just wake up. And that's what I've done now my entire life. I mean, I do set an alarm every now and then if it's like I got to get up at 4 because I got to be at the airport or something like that.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to miss it, but I do 99% of the time trust myself to be up on time.
And it even seems like when you got to get up extra early like that, your body does say, hey, I don't know, I rarely
I'm not ready.
Yeah, I rarely sleep as well on those kinds of nights, but that's not too often.
Yeah. Well, jumping back to the coffee, I was looking, these are all new to me. I was looking at the names of the coffee, and I got to tell you, whether or not you want to buy the coffee, you got to go look at the names. They're kind of funny. I look at Intelligent Concrete Fish is one. Intelligent Concrete Fish. Now I got to talk to Irvin about this. I know most of these coffee brands, like they'll have, like all the beer names, the microbrews, they got weird names, like Crafty Bike or, something like that. And it's probably because the brewmaster person thought of it while they were on their bike, and they make it real personalized in a kind of a funky way.
Yeah.
And you're never going to mistake it for anything else with names like that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, Intelligent Concrete Fish is a light roast. So we like the dark roast and the medium roast. I'm not going to say any more of the names, so people have to go to nativerootcoffee.com. The dark roast that I'll order, yeah. EST we'll call it. That'll be it. No, I'm not going to show you the name because you won't like it.
Well, I already know that what it has to do with. Yeah. I was just wondering if the website was fully updated.
There's 2 fishy type names, and I wonder why. So I'm going to have to talk to Irvin.
Maybe, do they fertilize with fish?
Right?
That was kind of my thought.
Yeah, who knows, huh?
So what
Probably
has been on your mind since
there's
we've
no
last
fish in the mountains.
done a podcast? Maybe I'll start. Okay, I came up with something.
Oh.
So since we last did a podcast, it has been very apparent to me how much you have helped me in business.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yes, and how appreciative I am. And we started our marriage.
Just for everybody listening, Tara looks like she's in love with me. Her head is tilted slightly. She has a nice smile.
I have stars and hearts coming out my eyes.
Starry eyes, yeah.
We started our relationship in business together. We were in Quick Star, which was an online version of Amway, which was really ahead of its time. They were saying in 10 years everybody's going to be doing their shopping online.
Yeah.
And we're like, we can barely get high-speed internet where we are.
Well, I adapted to it immediately.
You absolutely did.
I was
They had a version of like Amazon.
I was kind of a tech guy.
Before Amazon Amazon existed as a bookstore still online, but they had a version where you could buy multiple
groceries,
brands of products, and they had
You
sourced.
still can.
So we started out that way. So we started together in business, and then we kind of melded into other businesses along the way.
Well, we should say that we were very successful with that.
We did rather well.
Yes,
For those
we educated a lot of people. We brought a lot of people on because it was a multi-level, but it was a very, if I could say anything about it, because they get a lot of bad rap, I would say it was a very fair multi-level.
Yeah.
For the people that were willing to work, and it was just basically people purchasing their household products and groceries if you wanted.
And we still buy a number of the
Yeah.
products. They're very good products.
Well, absolutely.
The core line products. In
Well,
particular.
Amway stands for American Way, and they pioneered lots of products.
We're not still in, quote, the business, so we're not trying to mass recruit or...
No.
This is just-
Well, like you said, we still buy a lot of products from there, just like we buy a lot of products from a lot of places online. If people... So here's what I would say to people if they say, oh, it's a multi-level, what I would say is, are you happy that Jeff Bezos is the wealthiest man in the world? Mm-hmm. Are you happy that one guy, look at the organization. There's nobody quitting Amway. There's nobody complaining about Amway. There's no articles about Amway employees being abused, being tagged, being short-braked, being not paid enough. Nothing. Those people are happy. Mm-hmm. You look at Amazon. Amazon literally copied the online version of Amway, and nobody's happy with them.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a point.
Yeah.
Good point. I hadn't thought about it. So for example, multi-levels do get a bad rap, and I have, we've had people contact us about joining multi-levels.
Well, let's just say quickly why they get a bad rap. It's because of the people.
It is. Yeah.
If I was a mean person, anybody I talked to about joining or building a business like that would have been very unhappy with it. But the people that I talked to, or the people that we sold to, were very happy because we were very accommodating. We worked with them well. We understood business. We were very good at the business, just like we are good at our businesses now.
And it's an excellent education for someone starting out in business. If you don't have any background in business, you don't have family that was in business, it's a really great education.
Well, the educational materials are phenomenal. Most of the people I met were really good. Mm-hmm. They were understanding, they were accommodating, they were conscientious, they were about helping. And you can get a massive education by doing something like that. Now, it can be terrible. Honestly, I had to deal with people that I brought into business, that we were involved in business with. I had to help people understand that they couldn't be tyrants and mini dictators within their organizations and that kind of stuff. But that, to me it was common sense. To a lot of people, they just thought, well, I need people to do what I tell them to do. And that's generally what you get from a manager on a job. That's generally what you get from a coworker that's not happy with wanting to work with you. They try to tell you what to do. Even managers will threaten. And so I found that in some people, but that's just people. Just like if you go anywhere, there's people that are thieves, and there's people that are magnanimous with their money, whether they have a lot of money or not. There are people that will share, or people that will help.
Right. And so these days, like when I get contacted is the word, whether it's Amway or other businesses, particularly relatives, people I know, mm-hmm. I'll say, make sure you're in with good people. Yeah. And it's a great learning experience, and I really wish you well. And, if they have a decent product or something, I'll buy a product and support them. Yeah. That's not a call out.
No, good products, bottom line, good products are good products.
Yep. And that's...
we drive over an hour to a co-op up in Chanhassen, and that is because we want good products. Mm-hmm. So we're willing to spend the time, spend the money, if we're getting value for what we're buying.
Or the last couple weekends, we've driven over an hour to a food CSA,
hour and a half.
Community supported agriculture, where they have amazing berries, great produce as well. Yep. And it makes for a nice partial day trip with your parents. It's kind of an event as well. But like last time, would you get 28-pound containers of strawberries and froze them for your shakes?
Yep, that's called the Little Hill Berry Farm, which is a phenomenal CSA. Now, I don't want everybody to go there and buy up all their berries,
Right.
because I like to buy their berries.
Actually, there's several in the area. Right next door, there's an Open Hands CSA.
Yeah.
I think they focus more on vegetables, but there are a couple other berry farms in that area that are organic and so forth. So it's kind of a little hub in a way.
littlehillberryfarm.com.
And we found out your mom's cousin lives really close
Right
by.
across the street.
Yeah, and so we're like, we've been coming. Well, anyways, that was a tangent.
Not giving out addresses.
Absolutely. So the reason I went in that direction is we started our relationship in business together. And
Well, we started our relationship in my martial arts school by meeting at my martial arts school.
But it's shortly
And then we
after-
started our Quick Start business very quickly after that.
after we started dating
Yes.
officially.
Yes.
And so even before we were married, we were in business together.
Yes.
And we did that for a number of years. Then you started up the shop.
Yeah, a machine
And-
shop. Yeah, in our garage, in our townhome in Eden Prairie.
And I was doing a number of self-contracting types of jobs. Translating was the primary one, but
Yeah.
I still sold products, I think, with Amway. So we still had that part of it going.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my machine shop. What you're getting at here when you're saying that you appreciate me in business. So you met me in my business that I had at the time, and when we started into our Quickstar / Amway business, there is a thing so that people know. Large businesses have what's called a business compendium, which should be a handbook, like an employee handbook, right? And that handbook should teach you all about the business. Larger businesses have these, right? I don't have one for my machine shop now. I do have an employee handbook, but it's basically just, here's how much vacation you get, here's, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And because we don't have problems, but businesses write up these big handbooks and compendiums because they want to avoid all the mistakes that people will make, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the day we found out about the business opportunity that we could join, that we could buy a business in.
Weren't we contacted on the same day or within the same week
So
by different?
without getting colloquial within all the language of the
just-
business, I read the business compendium. I stayed up all night long and I read the business compendium. Now that's how I am in business, right? If something interests me, I go after it, I go full in. So yes, a coworker of yours, you worked at Eaton Corporation, a coworker of yours talked to you and said, hey, here's a great opportunity. I know you have a new boyfriend, you might want to show him this. And he knew how to talk, he knew how to get somebody to think about what he was doing.
Yeah.
So you came home, you told me about it. I went on the website, I downloaded the business compendium, which was something like, 135 or 140 pages. And I read the whole thing that night. And then the next day we joined. And I understood, because I read the business compendium, I understood that multi-level business better than most of the people that we met that had been in that business for 5-10 years. Okay? And so you're talking about business and how you appreciate me. Well, I might seem like I'm a little out there every now and then, but I'm thorough, and I'm thorough where it counts. Most people are like, we're sitting at our table and I just blew my nose before we sat down, and there's a Kleenex sitting here, right? And we're doing a podcast. Most people would be like, oh, you got to clean up that Kleenex. But I'm sitting here focused on our podcast and our talking. And that's the way I see the world. Most people are worried about the things that don't matter. Most people are trying to protect themselves from things they're afraid of that will never happen. And to run a business to be a successful person in business, you have to be very clear-minded about what it is you're doing, the things that are going to help you get to where you are, and the people that you need to get there, because nobody is successful by themselves. And in a marriage, me and you, now if I only prioritize the things I wanted or the things that my business needs, me and you would not be happy, because you're running a business and both of us need assistance. You know, I have employees on site, you have collaborators or contractors off site, but I am your right hand, left hand on site. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes I'm your right hand because you really need me, sometimes I'm your left hand because you kind of need me, you know. Sometimes I'm just a mouthpiece or a bouncing board, you know, you're gonna bounce stuff off of me.
Yes.
So now you can continue. I just wanted to put a little context into that because I know how valuable I am. And people will say, oh, you're arrogant, I'll listen to that guy, blah, blah, blah. No. If a person's going to be patient and they're going to listen and then they're going to give quality feedback based upon what the person, you in this case, is saying to them, what you can see they need, what you can see they can do with their skill set, you can be the most valuable person in their life. You can be the most cogent business consultant or business partner or mentor or anything in their any one of those words that apply in their life. And so it is, I know I started talking after you started talking, but it is about listening and knowing. It's knowing yourself and then knowing what other people need, knowing what you can provide if you can. If you can't, there has to be other resources.
Trying not to start my sentences with so. It's such a speech crutch.
Start with like.
Like when so reading the thinking. I think it's.
How about this?
I think it's
when I read.
When I have read Think and Grow Rich a number of times,
yeah.
One of the major components is having your counsel. And what I realize is that I've kind of had a built-in counsel, and I've been very fortunate in that sense. I know you've sought after people who are, you know, in different industries, similar industries, different ages, and you actually have to call them and contact them in different ways so that you can talk. And I have you sitting right here and am able to talk to you pretty much whenever. You make yourself, like if I say I need something, you're pretty readily available.
What do you need, Tara?
Which is extremely fortunate, and I think just it's one of those things that if you're lucky you see over time. And I do really want to, well, I'm actually grateful that I'm at a point to see this and appreciate it, because I certainly wouldn't want it to go away, which is, you know, your counsel, your insight and help. And there's a lot that comes with, I mean, you had already had at least 10 years of business experience before we had met and got together.
Well, as we've said on other podcasts, I started businesses when I was 12 years old. I was shoveling neighbors' driveways, I was mowing lawns.
And someone might say, well, what business experience do you gain when you're 12?
Oh,
well, you
geez.
learn to deal with people.
You're making deals, you're speaking like somebody, you know, you have to be polite if somebody's going to pay you money. You have to say thank you, yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, you know, as a 12-year-old, you know, and my parents, you know, they never said you have to be polite. They set the example. You know, I see parents nowadays like, well, be polite, say thank you, and they're on the kids before the kids have time to, you know, they're reaching up for something and they don't even have it. Like I saw it at the coffee shop the other day. There's a little kid reaching up, the lady behind the counter is handing it to the kid, and before the product even came out, it was a roll or a muffin or something, the mom is like, say thank you, you know, and it's like, and the kid's like, thank you, before it's even, you know, there was no time for the child to form their own like gratitude set, right? Like when that muffin landed in that kid's hand, let's talk the new science, right? Like what people are talking about. He would have got a shot of dopamine, and he would have been like, thank you. His eyes would have got big because he would have felt the weight of that sticky muffin in his hands, you know, and he would have been like, thank you, you know. And my parents never did that. They never did that, you know. They watched, I think what they did, and we should have my parents on, they watched what we did. And it's, you know, if somebody says thank you 5 seconds later, it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But let that kid get the entire interaction, you know, with the other person. And I was out by myself. I was going knocking on doors. Would you like your sidewalk shoveled? If their driveway was shoveled, I'd ask them like their sidewalk shoveled. If it was shoveled and it wasn't that good, I would ask, do you want the edges cleaned? You know, because if it was just wide enough for a car, or even out just walking out, because the neighborhoods we lived in had little grocery stores in the neighborhood. So there was north side, south side, west side, and east side neighborhoods on the town, and they all had a grocery store at the center of them. And so the little old ladies, they'd probably get out and shovel on their own, and then they'd walk to the store, right? And so I'd say, do you want your driveway wider? Do you want your sidewalk shoveled? Do you want the edges cleaned? Do you know, if it snows tomorrow, should I come over? You know, and they were like, they had to pay me because I was so eager to help, and I wanted to make money. And they were probably so excited to encourage a young person that, I mean, how many young people, when you see a young person do something, you just want to run over and say, good for you, right? I mean, especially nowadays, with all these kids screaming at their parents and swearing and crossing their arms and humping, no, you know, it's off the charts. I mean, you never saw a crabby kid back when I was a kid. You know, you saw hungry kids. You know, people would take their kids shopping all hungry and stuff, and kids would want stuff. But back then, you just grab a product off the shelf and give it to your kid. They'd open it up and they'd eat it. Yeah. You know, it was very calm back then. So.
The good old days.
Yeah. So I had jobs per se, not technically businesses, but I was running business when I was 12. All the way up until when I was 15, I went and got a job because I lied about my age. And I made less money at that job than I ever made shoveling and mowing as a 12-year-old. Because I was paid a little less than minimum wage, which was fine because I wanted the job. I wanted a regular job. We moved out to the country, and I'd rather not bale hay. I did that. I'd rather not detassel corn. I did that for, I think, 10 minutes. We went through the county to do that. You go to a county meeting and they'd say, we need corn detasselers, we need weed pickers, we need, you know, and then you'd go where you want to go, and I thought, I'm going to try detasseling corn. And when I got out in the field, it was, you know, 98 degrees and high humidity. The corn was taller, you know, I was taller, so I could reach it. And we were about 2 miles from my house, and it was miserable. And I just told the person, I said, I'm going home. And he said, you can't leave. I said, well, I live right down the road. He's like, you can't leave. And I'm like, yeah, I can. Yeah. Watch me.
So they learned after that, don't start where they're near their houses.
Yeah. Here I'm walking home. What else would we like to be sponsored by? I think we should be sponsored by Nalgene. Nalgene, I got a Nalgene bottle with water in it here. We have several of these bottles. They're the 32-ounce bottles.
We have a lot of them.
With the cap that is like a drinkable cap.
The top.
Small hole drinkable cap.
Small but easy to clean.
Yeah.
Which is
and when
important.
you close it, it makes a loop so you can hook your carabiner on it on your backpack. I do that all the time. Nalgene. I'm pretty sure they're nalgene.com. Check them out. Buy their products. They're awesome.
Yep. So how do you, now we don't,
I think you should continue with your appreciation. I keep interrupting you, but.
yes, so we've kind of covered everything.
Well, I'm not trying to correct misstatements, but there's a larger context when people say, well, I attribute this to that person, and if you said your dad was really good for you in business, I would say yes, and then I would give examples. I would, because he was a tool maker for 55 years and a designer, and literally he made changes in the world that affected everybody, and we have computers because of my dad, and people don't know that. They know Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and Bill Burr has a funny comedy routine about Steve Jobs. What did that guy do? Oh yeah, he's the Jesus of computers, right? He walked by a room and said, I want all of my songs on this device, and I want it now. He never built anything. He never designed anything. Well, my dad was as a tool maker, you build things that build things. So tool makers build everything that builds everything. Everything from this tablecloth is woven on a loom or a machine that was built by a tool maker. The shovel was stamped by a die that was built by a tool maker. And the tool makers before machinery were blacksmiths. And you'd go to your blacksmith for everything, for a knife, for a fork, for a plate, for a spoon, for a shoe on your horse, for a bracket for your cart, for the steel on the wheels on the old wagons.
A hinge on your trunk.
A hinge on your trunk or your door, nails, everything that became something out of metal was done by blacksmiths. Well, nowadays tool makers work with every kind of material you can think of. We metal, plastics, we mold plastics, and people say, well, that's a mold maker. Yeah, but it's different a little bit, but
what I've wondered is
you have to be a tool maker to be a mold maker.
How is it that we have actually in specifically from blacksmithing to modern day tool and die tool making, I mean, that's a long history, but it's kind of amazing to me actually how things can improve. Mm-hmm. Because you're technically using,
but it takes hundreds of years.
Yes, I mean, because you just think of going from forging in a blacksmith shop to the teeny tiny cutters you guys work with, and it's like, how do you even gradually go from, I don't even know how to say it, I think you know what I mean, but it's like, yeah. How do you go from,
that took 200 years literally,
because you're literally going finer,
yes, you make
sharper.
A machine that makes a machine, and each machine progressively gets better, right? So if you're a blacksmith, you had to forge a hammer, and then you had to forge an anvil, right? You had to have something that you could pound the metal between. So anvils probably were just a lump, probably started out as a really hard stone possibly, and then went to just a square piece of metal. And then they started forming, they wanted to form the metal they were hammering, right? So then they made something with a round end on it, something with a point on it, so they could hammer out finer and finer edges of blades and that type of stuff. And then you've seen these forges, these rams that come down on videos. I've showed you some things where they're hitting hot metal. And then the blacksmith would have had one of those, and it might just be a dummy arm that would come down and hit like his hammer, and maybe it was on a cog, right? So it would lift and hit and lift and hit when they start doing production, mm-hmm. right? Because they need 10,000 swords instead of 2 knives and a fork.
Right, so you could have his apprentice, and they start out.
Well, they'd have a horse.
Skill.
The horse is walking around the wheel with the thing around his neck, and he's just walking, turning the wheel, and the wheel is turning a leather strap, which is over another wheel, which then is on the cam that is dropping this hammer. And if you need to make 10,000 swords, you make 100 of those hammers, right? Mm-hmm. And now you start seeing production, and that's a press. That's like a punch press, right? Yeah. And we still have punch presses nowadays. And then from that, you could hammer larger pieces of metal, so you'd make a bigger hammer, a bigger forging area, and and then it goes up from there. And that's why I say it took 200 years to get to where we're at.
I think you've said something to the effect before that, unfortunately, and I'm adding unfortunately, I think you would too, war has been a very big push for innovation.
Oh yeah, because you got to beat your enemy. There's no competition like war. You know, DARPA has their contest nowadays, and you know, whoever can make an autonomous driving car, you know, and you get 10 teams go out and try and figure out how to do it. But most innovations have come through war. You know, the computer industry, because they need automation. They wanted, you know, the catapult was was an innovation that came out of war, and you know, all the different accelerants for explosions and things that would burn and all that kind of stuff. And then you end up with, oh, well, now we can make something that potentially could drive a motor, you know, that type of stuff, you know, that's contain that explosion instead of just burning thousands of people with it, you know. And one of the things that people don't realize that really concerns me is if we allow all of the things that are happening now, you know, if literally people want to tear down the infrastructure. If we didn't have electricity for about 2 weeks to a month, we would never see it again in our lifetime. Every piece of equipment, appliance we have wouldn't work. Our freezers wouldn't work, and we would be done.
Why wouldn't they work after that amount of time?
Because if people aren't maintaining the power plants and taking care of it, it's going to shut itself down. Doesn't run automatically. It runs automatically because people maintain it. They watch levels.
So you're not saying that the actual appliance would not work?
No, we wouldn't have electricity.
It's that if this infrastructure for electricity in particular is not maintained well enough, it can be to the point of no return. Yeah.
Well, it's like my machines. They're all computer run. They start up, they shut down. But if we don't watch, let's say we break a cutter. So let's say we're making a part and we have 2 drills, 2 chamfer tools, and 4 cutters, 4 end mills that we're making this part with. Every cutter after the first one depends on each cutter before it, right? Excuse me. So if we're drilling a hole and then we're putting in a counter bore on that hole, the drill drills the hole, then the end mill comes over to put the counter bore, which is just a little step down with a larger diameter at the top, and that hole's not there, that end mill could potentially break. And if that tool breaks and it does other operations that the next tool needs it to have done, the chamfer tool comes in and there's no edge to chamfer, there's material sticking out, that chamfer tool breaks. And if we don't monitor our equipment, nowadays we have monitoring devices, right? So we can tell the machine to laser check each tool to make sure the previous one was there, you know, to check it at the end of its run. If it's not there, the machine shuts down. But now the automatic part is done at that point unless we put in a bunch of what are called sister tools, right? But let's say we just break all the sister tools, the part doesn't come out done. Mm-hmm. And if we break all the tools because we weren't monitoring and it just kept going and breaking tools, we spend a lot of money, we waste a lot of time, we don't get our product. So although the machines are automatic and we can set them up to be that way, we might not get any work done in a day if we're not monitoring.
Yeah.
So same thing happens a lot of our power in America is hydroelectric, a lot of it is nuclear, a lot of it is coal-fired, right? Well, if nobody's loading the coal-fired furnaces, they're not producing electricity. If nobody's opening up the dam during the rainy season, the dam will flood. The dam could potentially break and wash out and take out whatever towns are down below it. We saw that in China recently. If nobody is monitoring the levels of heat of the rods, the uranium at the nuclear plant, and pulling it out of its fusion and putting it back into its fusion, and it's all automatic, but if nobody's monitoring, what if something goes wrong and you have to manually do it and it doesn't get done? Then you have a meltdown, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say that none of those ways that we get electricity. Well, let's just put up windmills. When the wind blows, we get, if people understood how much maintenance and money and oil go into the windmills, they would not want windmills.
Well, plus
They're more costly than what they produce.
Something I had no idea about was that the fiberglass that they're made out of is not recyclable, not reusable.
Right.
It's literally total waste.
And they have a lifespan. So those giant blades on those windmills probably have a 3 or 4 year lifespan, and they have to be replaced, because as they're blowing in the wind, they're getting fractured, right? They become weak because they're literally resistance to the wind. That's how they blow. That's how they turn. The wind blows, puts resistance on the blades, and they spin. So they're being blown backwards to spin, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they have a lifespan.
Why? I have no idea if you'll probably have a thought on this, but why would they make it out of fiberglass and not like aluminum?
It would be way too heavy.
So it's still that much heavier. Aluminum is still.
Look how huge those things are.
Well, yeah, but I don't know the difference between
Yeah.
fiberglass weight and.
Well, and the aluminum at that level would have to be. We don't have extruding presses that big. An extruding press wouldn't work because you couldn't make it hollow. So, aluminum, it'd have to be machined, and it would have to be 2 pieces because you have to hollow it out to make it light. Yeah, if you took a piece of aluminum that size of that blade and put it up there, it would make that tower crumble.
Okay.
It would weigh tons.
I figured weight must be the
Yeah,
deal.
it weighs tons the way it is, but it would weigh magnitudes more. Yeah.
So, a person might not necessarily see you as a conservationist but you do have certain types of.
Every machinist is a conservationist because most of us hunt. Most of us know that the populations of animals need to be conserved. They can't get above a certain amount. They can't get below a certain amount. And that is regulated also by the states. That's regulated by the DNR. So they allow so many tags for animals. If animals are out of control, like the hogs down south, they just say, hey, it's open season. You can kill as many as you want. Because those hogs are going to overrun everything. And they're gonna wreck the farmland. They're gonna wreck the fences for the sheep herders. They're gonna wreck everything. And yeah, so it's conservation. We're all efficient. We like our motorsports. We like our trucks. We like those types of things. But we haul stuff in our trucks. We need trucks. Not everybody can drive a smart car, because I pick up and deliver things, and we do it very efficiently. I would think that people that are environmentalists and conservationists would like the fact that I might drive a bigger vehicle so I can pick up and deliver my own stuff so I don't have to call a semi. And they might say, well, it's more efficient. But it's not more efficient because I need my product and parts delivered immediately. Because we run for companies on a ASAP basis, right? They contact us when they need something, and a lot of times it's an emergency. You might have an assembly line running, and it's $1 million a day assembly line, and they need a part. And if it's down for a day, that costs the company $1 million. And that's when you run into massive inefficiencies, and when companies start making bad decisions when they're not making enough money. So yeah, you go down the line. We know what products to buy. We know the quality products. We don't want to buy a new car every 4 years. That's why I went away from the one car that I was buying. I bought 3 of them in 6 years, and I burnt up the engines in 2 years each. And then I bought a vehicle that now I will have for a more extended period of time.
Well, and it's an engine that is used very commonly, like in Europe, and so.
Oh, Europe! It's European.
Well, it's their kind of a more of a base model engine. I think
it's common engine.
It's much more common.
Buying common engines is very efficient, much more efficient than having electric cars and that kind of stuff. We were talking about lifespans on windmills. The batteries in the cars, the electric cars, have a lifespan of 10 years or so, and then they're not usable for anything ever. And they probably are 80% of the weight of the car, and those cars are heavy. You probably got a 4,000-pound battery in those cars.
Holy cow!
Yeah, I could look it up.
That's really heavy.
Yeah, electric batteries should not be used in mass quantity. They shouldn't be used for driving cars or trucks or anything like that, buses. They should be used in small electronics. The biggest thing they should be used, the biggest thing that they should be used in probably is a motorcycle, an electric motorcycle, maybe. And that's still, the reason being is people don't drive motorcycles as much as cars, so the battery will last longer than 10 years. I don't know how much longer, but I'm okay with batteries in our phones, and we should be looking for something other than lithium now, because that's destroying the planet. People will see that in the next 10 years, all the lithium mines, and I don't believe there's enough of lithium to be mined to supply our need for batteries with electric cars for very long.
So I'm going to change the topic a little bit.
Yeah, good.
We've discussed lately that we may be starting a homesteading, might be a homesteading project, depends on how far we go with it.
Yeah, full on gardening with a greenhouse, and we're gonna get some chickens again, potentially, that type of stuff. Just kind of being self-sufficient to a degree, with 80% of what we would buy at the store for vegetables and eggs. Where I don't think we're gonna do meat. We got lots of farmers around here that do meat, so.
Yeah, and that's like a whole nother level. But probably berries. We should do strawberries for sure.
Yeah, fruit trees, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's we've gardened before.
Yeah.
So at least we kind of know what we're getting into.
Oh yeah.
And it is it's twofold, right? It's things are weird.
Well, we
these
sold
days.
our tractor a few years ago.
We sold our tractor.
I sold our tractor. Well,
you sold our tractor.
We were not using it.
And I know.
We weren't using it.
So
it's not good to, see, I'm efficient. I'm a tool maker, I'm efficient. I'm a machinist, I understand. And I don't want to let something sit for too long. The longer it sits, the more it will need maintenance, whether it's tires or, if it's sitting outside, the paint gets faded and that kind of stuff.
So we're starting this journey just by talk, first of all, and we're pretty sure we're going to do it, but we're going to document it as part of a Marital Arts project. We have a few projects we want to do. Now, we are not DIYers, do-it-yourselfers, really by any means.
Really, we're not. We're not.
Well, not like in the typical sense of
we're DIYers in like 90% of what we do. Sorry, don't mean to make you eat your words.
You're going back to work, to business stuff in particular.
Yeah. Well, no, we don't.
DIY,
we're not building our own house. But
yeah, typically DIY. There's a connotation that you're fixing up your home. And
it just means do it yourself.
It does literally mean that.
Yeah, are you fixing your engine? Are you changing your tire?
Do I have to look up a definition here?
Are you going to look up the definition to do it yourself?
Yes.
I don't think
probably
you should.
Urban Dictionary.
I don't think you should do that because it's going to say it means you do it yourself.
Well, yeah, literally, but I think there's a connotation.
DIY home projects. I mean, I'm doing projects all the time. Are you not paying attention? I hung my own speed bag, my own heavy bag. I built platforms for things like that. I hung up my lift for our bikes in the garage. I hung all that myself. I did all my own electrical here. I didn't put in the water system because I just didn't, but I designed the water system. I told them what I wanted. I chose the water softener, the water heater, I didn't build the water heater, but I chose it.
So I would say that we're going to be doing some, let's say, a little more traditional DIY stuff together.
I've gone to Home Depot, Tara. I have.
Yes.
I have gone to Home Depot.
And I have gone with you and asked you to put some things in the cart. Yes.
And I did that myself.
Yeah. We're going to put in a bathtub.
We're not DIYers. We got a bathtub literally sitting right next to us. It's next to our dining table that's going in the bathroom. Yeah.
Yep. Obviously hasn't been a high priority, but we've had such good weather to go mountain biking and that kind of stuff. So it hasn't been a high priority yet.
No, yeah. So yeah, do it. We're gonna put in. I'm not gonna put in the water lines because I'm gonna call. They have, when you start calling electricians and plumbers and people like that, they have the tools for the job.
Yeah.
So you have an option for me, I'll just say, as a guy doing stuff, you have an option. Do you want to go and buy all the tools to do the job, and you're going to do the job once, and now you've just spent, $500-600 on tools to do the job, and I don't want to do that. They have the lines to string them. They know. They know where they want to put the lines. Is it going to go under or over the stud behind or over around? What's the best flow for the water? The electrical lines, a little bit easier when you're putting them in when you have open walls.
Yeah.
But once the wall is closed, then it's a little bit more difficult.
So I think number one, we're pretty practical when it comes to what is it we're going to do and what is it we're going to have someone else do.
Yeah.
We agree pretty quickly on.
Well, it has to make sense. I mean, if you're going to do a project that's going to take, it'll take you 4 weekends or it'll take a professional one day, you got to decide, are you going to, and you got to decide you're going to pay it, because you might pay that professional $1,000.
Right.
And if the $1,000 matters to you, if you can't make $1,000 in that time frame, you got to weigh out your options. Like you said, do you want to go mountain biking, or do you want to spend all day just pulling out a vanity to put in a tub?
Yeah. So we've never done a project like that before, like pulling out the vanity to put in a tub kind of thing. So part of this is kind of an experiment to test the marital arts. And so patience, communication.
It's very simple. We're just very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll be documenting it. Not like every single step. Maybe those of you listening can give tips. Maybe you're professional DIYers at home.
We might take professional DIYers. We might take a picture or two.
Yeah, it's not going to be like step by. We're not going to be showing how to do something. It's more of the marital arts perspective of, okay, how did this project go for us in the marital arts department, and and similar with the garden thing.
Yeah.
And so at this point we're in the planning stages for both, and we'll let you know how it goes. Yeah, not a huge rush for either of them, although we're looking. What is it? It's mid-August now.
Well, we got to get our greenhouse in before the winter. So.
Yep. Yeah. So we're gonna have to decide a few of these evenings. Do we watch a movie? Do we go biking? Do we plan these things? Because there's a lot, with both projects. They're rather permanent, and so you want to plan it out, right? You don't want to be moving around a greenhouse in particular, right?
No.
I mean, the tub can only fit in one spot, but
yeah.
So we'll let you know how it goes.
So let's see. Okay, I'll participate with you here. So we're going through marital arts 1 through 10. Patience, communication, cooperation, making love. Maybe we'll get in the tub for that. Coping, staying active, plan, truth, humor, and the rule of 11. If we work together, we're going to compound our capabilities. So 1 and 1 makes 11.
Yes. Or even like the horse moving the wheel.
Yeah.
It's the horse and the...
Yeah, they would have the horse walk around, and it would be there. You'd see all these leather belts going to different areas off of the one horse. That's where they got horsepower, right? One horse. What can they pull? What can they turn? What can they, and so you'd have them walking around in a circle. You could put a bigger diameter wheel that the belt would run on, so it would move faster, and then it would run several belts. I walked into an old machine shop that was belt run, and there was belts and pulleys all over the place, and it was phenomenal to see how they did it. And it ran, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 machines.
Wow. And
just on belt power. And that, I think, was run off of water, or it might have even been run off of an early electric motor, because motors were big in the beginning,
Early
And
electric motor, but fueled by.
electricity. You didn't have, all the machines didn't have electric motors. You'd have one
Yeah.
big motor that would run all the machines off of belts. So when they transitioned from water power, the wheel turning and the belt, or horsepower, the wheel turning with the belt, then they went to when electric motors were made, like you'd be able to, if you owned a blacksmith shop or a machining shop, you would buy a motor. Hey, we got a motor, and then you would hook it up to your belt system. And then that motor would run all the belts. You didn't have
But you must have been. You'd have to have been in a city where you're
where
near
there's electricity, yeah.
high output electricity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess I was envisioning more like a huge generator like they have down the road at
Yep.
the transistor
Yep.
station.
Everything started out big and then got downsized, like what we're seeing now. Computers would fill the room, fill this building.
Yeah.
And now the iPhone is a more powerful computer than those computers,
Yeah.
than the Cray computers that were filling an entire building. So things get miniaturized. That's why we do micromolding and micromachining.
Yeah.
You know, they want to go in blood vessels now and not just arteries.
Yeah.
So pretty soon they're going to want to go into capillaries.
Really incredible.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
So we just had a off recording conversation
Quick.
because we're kind of feeling like we're not flowing so much. So I'm feeling like, I'm feeling like we're not flowing, and maybe I took over too early in the ideas and kind of ran with them.
Yeah, your comment was that my commentary or I'm trying to make too much maybe of an idea, and I feel like I think you said something like it's kind of fading or you're not following up. And what did you say?
Well, maybe I'm
specifically?
slightly aggressive this morning. I'm feeling.
Yeah. Because I said I'm trying.
I'm full of
trying
energy.
I mean, if we're not recording, I love just listening to you, but I'm trying to make it more of a volleying kind of situation where we're going back and forth. And what I said, it's not a big deal to me, if we're just conversing, but if we're trying to make a back and forth conversation to make it a little more maybe dynamic as far as a listening experience. You're taking some of the ideas and expanding, and there isn't much left for me to do except for say, oh, that's really neat, wow, and then ask another question.
Yeah.
So that was my feedback, which is not a big deal if it's just the two of us. So I just said, I'm trying,
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of hashing a few things out. If maybe people can or can't hear. For us, everything kind of flows. We do run into things. Like you brought up the tub, and we've had the tub for a while, but we haven't done the project. Not because we don't know how to do it. You're like, well, we're not do-it-yourselfers. Well, yes, we are.
We can figure it out.
I know how to put a tub in.
Well, the other thing though is
they were running into it again.
Our air conditioner has been down for 2 months. Fortunately, we have portable ones, but so just getting the person in to do some of the stuff.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
If I had known it was going to be, he's coming today. If I had known it was going to be this long, I would have done it myself. I can buy the flaring tools, and I've got soldering tools, and I can change out the compressor. I have the compressor here already, and I would have done it. I didn't realize it was just going to go on and on and on. I should have. I didn't get a solid date from him. He missed several dates because he said, well, these projects running over. This place we have air conditioning, mm-hmm. And he said, basically me and him had a conversation several weeks ago, and I'm like, hey, you're going to get in and do this? He goes, yeah, there are people literally without air conditioning, and he knows I have air conditioning, mm-hmm. And I just want my main air conditioner for the upstairs fixed. We've been drawn from downstairs, and we got a couple portable air conditioners, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But so he's meeting emergencies. If you got a family of 6 with no air conditioning, and it's these 90-degree plus days, and
or maybe an older couple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can be very uncomfortable, and you're not sleeping well.
Right. Well, and if houses aren't air conditioned, they get humid, they expand, you get nail pops, you get that kind of stuff. And so it's not just a cooling thing for the person, it's literally a preservation for your house,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, so there's multiple factors, and I think that's the big thing, you know, in multiple years of marriage or just life, you learn you have to go with the flow, otherwise it's going to be miserable and terrible. And some people seem to have an endurance for like resisting flow, like just being demanding and just like, I'm not going to put up with this. And it seems to be a part of their personality.
Yeah.
But I personally don't have the energy for that. That's not just in my energetic makeup.
Yeah.
And so, but there are times I have resisted.
Let's talk about, you know, I love how our most meaningful parts of the conversation are right at the end of the podcast usually.
Yeah.
But let's talk about last night and flow. So last night you got all, you know, kind of...
Are we talking about number 4?
Yeah, let's talk about making love. Like literally this would be making love, not just touching each other in the kitchen, you know, rubbing your back or saying, you know, I love you or thanks for doing that or whatever, that kind of making love. But we were going to get down to the physical act, and I wasn't quite up for it, you know, and you seemed not totally eager, but you were down, and we ended up kind of snuggling, and I rubbed your back for a while, and you know, that's about as far as we want to go for graphicness.
Yeah.
But how did we flow through that? You know, how did you know, as a guy, you know, when you want to get it on, you're really disappointed if you don't get it on, right? And you were the one that initiated, and I came into the bedroom, and we were moving in that direction, and you know.
Well, kind of along those lines of, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but it is not often that I'm the initiator. You're much more on more of the time, and just it's in your nature. And so I don't see it as a letdown in like I'm being denied or something. For me, I had known it had been a while, and it particularly for our time frame.
Yeah,
and
it's about a week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a while.
Yeah. Well, you had your womanly
stuff going on
this last week.
And usually at that point you're like, all right, can we, you know, even if you're just taking care of me,
Is
you know,
it time?
Yes. And so I was trying to be ahead of that.
Well, let's do a frank talk. That would be a John talk, but let's be frank with each other. You probably know this, but I'm not as turned on when you're chasing me.
Okay, but that's so interesting, because there have been times, a number of times, where you're like, you know, I just wish you would come after me more. Yes. So what do you mean by that?
Yes, like probably once every 6 months is probably when you've been married for 21 years, you got some time frame to analyze and look back on. And it was more that I felt like I was chasing you so much that you weren't interested sometimes, you know, and it's like, hey, you know, I want you to be interested. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe if she comes after me, she can get the feelings that I'm getting chasing her. And, you know, then you'd be like, oh yeah, well, oh, he's coming after her. All right, that's, you know, because you go through those phases, and many guys will know about this. You go through a phase of you and your woman don't necessarily touch a lot when she isn't in the mood, because she thinks because you're touching her you want to have sex. And generally that's the idea, right, for a guy.
Yeah.
And however, you know, we have the advantage of being married now for, well, in November here we've been married for 21 years. So, right?
Yep.
21, yeah. Just verifying.
We made it easy. We got married in 2000, so the math is easy.
There you go. So, yeah, we've been through several phases of this where every time I touched you, I wanted to, you know, make love.
Yeah.
And I see that, guys are up for the opportunity sometimes at inopportune times for women, right? Because when I see you, and this is gonna sound really, really traditional, but when I see you, I walk in the house, I smell the food you're cooking. Excuse me, cough. I smell the food you're cooking. My stomach goes, yeah, right? I walk up the stairs, I walk into the kitchen, and you're in there, wearing whatever you're wearing. It's not like you're wearing negligee, but you are cooking, you look really sexy. I know you're not trying to be sexy. You're like, oh, I just got some onion made my eye water, or whatever, and or you're peeling potatoes, and you're shoot like that at the sink or whatever it is, and I see you doing that, and you're peeling potatoes, and you got a little bit of a shake, and I'm walking up behind you, and I'm smelling the food, and I know you're cooking for me, and I know you're cooking for you too, but it's all of it is like it's like a romantic evening, right? There's a scented candle that smells like chicken. There's negligee, which is your normal. You're not wearing negligee, but your normal outfit. And you got a little bit of shake, which is kind of like a little dance. Hey, come on over here. There's all the ingredients to.
So it's so funny, like this.
So, ladies, cook, cook. Even if it's just beans and weenies, whatever he likes, just cook it. Mac and cheese, Because
whatever turns him on.
Hey, I know my stomach's going to be full, and I know that's going to give me. I'm not going to be worried about being hungry, and I'm going to have energy, and it's like basic needs, right? It's like, you see that one of the funniest memes I've shared with you is the female lioness holding on to the wildebeest, and the caption is, "Can I get a little help here?" And the male lion walks up behind her and says, "Sure you can," and he grabs onto her and starts humping her. And then she's like, oh my God, it's always like, he's like,
it's
hey,
totally the kitchen scenario.
Yeah,
it's
honey,
like,
honey, you just got dinner, and
if you want to eat tonight, I need to finish this.
She's got her claws and her teeth into this wildebeest. She's taking it down, and her tail is sticking up. And he walks up behind her, and he's like, "Man, that's a woman." I love it.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
You can tell what I think by my sounds.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you think?
Well, it's exasperating. I mean, it's totally true. Like the kitchen scenario you played out here. It's like, okay, why right now? Like,
Yeah, it's inopportune, but it's almost kind of those inopportune times are sometimes a little bit of a turn on, when you think about it. I mean, when people say, people don't say, what's the normal times you have sex every week? They say, where's the most risky place you had sex?
Yeah.
People get excited by that stuff, and they're like, phone booth in London, or whatever they're saying. I don't know what people say, but, it's in the woods, or, on a park bench, or whatever, I've heard a few things when I've heard those interviews, but,
yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, how could people get excited or turned on in situations like that? Because sometimes it's the inopportune moment that spurs the excitement,
the thrill.
Yeah.
Airplane bathroom does not sound
No,
appealing.
airplane bathrooms are disgusting. Yeah. They smell.
I mean, all bathrooms are pretty
Yeah.
disgusting to a certain degree, but
Well, there are obviously luxurious bathrooms, and then there's airplane bathrooms, and exactly what people are doing when they go in there, and that's the only purpose of that bathroom. There's no marble countertops and heated, in-floor heat and
or
on
someone
the tile
coming in right after you to wipe everything down.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's.
You'd think that they could at least install a UV light that turns on. It detects if there's anyone in there, and then
turns
just,
on
like,
when they leave to
yeah.
kill anything. I don't think people get that sick that often from anything, and I don't think that we need that. I don't think we need UV everywhere.
Just psychologically, to go,
Yeah,
oh.
I don't think we should clean because of psychology. I think we should clean for purpose.
But what if there was a French maid outfit involved? Then would it psychologically be better? It would be approved.
So a French maid is going to walk around waving a UV wand
Doesn't
in
have
a
to
very
be a
sexy
French
manner.
maid. Just, well, if I say someone, it could be anyone. But
yeah. So.
I think we're going off the rails a little bit
So
here.
Keira Knightley is going to walk around in a French maid outfit with.
Maybe a look-alike. Probably not actually her.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Haven't seen that movie.
So on that note, should we end on French maid outfit?
Sure.
Yeah, that's probably a good ending.
Yeah. You gonna go peel some potatoes?
I actually cleaned a lot of stuff the other day. I made food. We both made food that will last us a couple days.
Yeah.
Here, so
I made spaghetti sauce last night, with 2 pounds of ground bison, and you made whole chicken and a bunch of fingerling potatoes, and
that's where the potatoes came in.
we have leftovers.
Yep.
Yeah, you weren't peeling them because they weren't big potatoes. You were cutting them.
I was cutting
So
and
you
taking
weren't
the eyes off.
weren't doing that little wiggle.
No. No little wiggle for you.
There's a reason there's a song out there that says wiggle, 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 wiggle.
There's a lot of truth in songs that you could.
Well,
glean.
pretty much every song is about, well, either about sex or getting together, breaking up. I mean, there's a lot of songs that are about death and destruction too, but they're all the heightened topics,
Yeah.
Nobody sings about, just
A boring day.
getting dressed in the morning and taking a shower so you don't stink.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. So there you go.
All right,
There you
French
go.
maid outfit.
Cook it up and wiggle.
Is that going to be the title of this one? Cook it up and wiggle.
That'd be funny. Bye.